Hello, my friends. It is my hope that your 2021 experience has been pleasant so far. I think we are all hoping that this year will be an improvement from last year and praying that 2020 wasn't just a warm-up. But regardless, whether it is a great year or it's going to be another year, we will keep moving forward. With that being said, one of my goals for this year is to engage in more interesting conversations and start more dialogues. One of those interests are definitions, and how definitions can be so different from others. A few months ago, I had a conversation with a friend of mine about the differences between love and care. I was surprised by how different our definitions were and how strongly we disagreed with each other. It occurred to me that so often we misunderstand each other, particularly with these words. I find that most of the time we have our own definitions, our own way of perceiving love and care. But if our definitions are different, it can be very difficult to understand one another. Which is a pity, for these words and our definitions of them are important. We use them every day. We feel them every day. They are two words that have a root in every meaningful connection we try and succeed in establishing. So, with it being Valentines, I thought it would be fun to share my definitions of love and care. I am curious to find if my friends think my definitions are odd. Love. The technical definition of love is a profoundly tender, passionate affection for another person, a feeling of warm personal attachment or deep affection, as for a parent, child, or friend. That is really lovely. It makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. I think this definition is adequate at giving a vague outline of what love can be and what it often is. But unfortunately, for me, the definition doesn't take in all aspects of what love is. By the very nature of this word, definitions will often be clumsy. How to explain the feeling of a parent's love towards their child? How do you explain the feeling of being entwined in your lover's arms? How do you explain the feeling of pure joy, pure bliss between a person and what or who they hold dearest? How do you begin to approach all the complexities and nuances of the word love? And if you were somehow able to explain that, then you would have only been able to describe one person's feelings. It would be different for another. There are 7.8 billion people on this earth, and each and every single one of us feels and expresses love differently. We see it differently. We expect it differently. How can a definition possibly encompass this word? Words themselves are not sufficient to explain love. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. So here is my clumsy attempt. Love is the purest form of attachment. It is when something or someone is so close to you, to your heart, to your being, a bond is created. This bond is rooted, intertwined within the soul to the point where the object of one's love finds a place within our soul. It would almost feel as if what one loves is a part of them. This definition works for me simply because it allows for all types of love to exist. There are no shortage of descriptions or examples of what love is. From movies to songs, from games to dreams, from ancient texts to memes. The list might as well be infinite at this point. Most examples describe what the dictionary's definitions are: warm, affectionate, and often selfless. For me, though, most of what people say and mean don't look at the negative examples of love, the toxicity of what certain loves can bring. I'm not here to say that your definition is wrong. How you see love is up to you. I just wish for the capacity to understand everyone's definition. I've watched and examined many abusive relationships, trying to understand why someone would hurt, lie, demean, and overall treat someone with so little regard to their well-being, and still be able to say, I love them. I find that a lot of my friends would dismiss those words coming from an abuser. For them, you cannot love your partner if you are continually hurting them. For my friends, this is true. But I find that there is something lacking in this way of thinking. It doesn't allow me to truly understand the shadows of others. Most definitions of love don't allow for a very uncomfortable truth. You can easily hurt that which you love, and you can love them while doing it. I use the word attachment as a link to what love is, because it allows all types, the good, the bad, and the gray. I love my hand. So much so, I can't see my life without it. The thought of having my hand taken away from me is very troubling. It is so much a part of me, I can't see any separation between me and my hand. It is completely a part of my body, completely a part of my soul. But my hand can be removed, and I will still exist. Just a piece of me will have been taken away. I'm very attached to my hand. I love sunrises and sunsets, watching the beauty of our world, our universe, awaken and fall asleep, seeing the beginning of a new day and the ending of it. I love how my mind sees new things and is inspired by the beauty of light and the earth. I love the peace that it brings while I watch and become more than an observer, but part of this glorious process, when everything feels right. I'm attached to beauty. I'm attached to inspiration. I'm attached to hope. I love my family. They are so much a part of me I can actually feel them around me. They raised and grew up with me. We were shaped by each other. They know me better than anyone else. I can go years without speaking to them, and I can still have them in my heart, even though they're not around me. In death, they are part of me still. I am very much attached to my family. It feels good when you love someone or something. We connect so deeply with that which we love that it becomes a part of us, shapes us. That which we love creates who we are. We take little pieces of things we connect to, and it forms our identity. But being part of one's identity does not mean one has to give it attention or treat it in any particular way. I can mistreat my hand, abuse or ignore its needs, and I will always be attached to it, even if it is separated from me. Months can go by without me approaching the beauty of the sunset, without stepping into that glorious mindset and of wonder. But if I knew I would never be able to see the sun again, oh, how I would grieve. I cannot think of my mother for months at a time, but I still ache for her when I do. I'm still attached. If I was only able to see from my perspective of what love is, I would be constantly puzzled as to why people place so much emphasis on love. Whether the person loves me or they do not, whether I love them or I do not. Saying those three magic words and how much meaning they have. Love has always been easy for me to see and feel. But because of that, love doesn't have as much weight as it seems the world tells me it should. Now, don't get me wrong. Love is necessary and vital to me. After all, I think it is the bonding of my soul towards others. However, for me, that in and of itself is not special or rare. It is not special or rare in very much the same way that oxygen is not special or rare. Oxygen is extraordinarily important. If you don't have it, you will notice, rather immediately. But on this planet, it is everywhere. And just because you have oxygen, or love, doesn't mean you have everything you need to prosper. And if you add another element to oxygen, or love, you can get positive or negative results. Care. The definition of care is the provision of what is necessary for the health, welfare, and protection of something or someone. Defining care is easier to achieve than defining love, for care has a decisive meaning. Take care, be careful. These phrases are pretty universal, and understanding the meaning is fairly easy. But when I asked my friends what they thought it meant to care for another person, I got a variety of answers that were different from my own. Care, for a lot of people, is a more shallow version of love. Quote, I can care about something but not love them. But the people I love, I always care for. For a lot of my friends, care is the beginning of affection towards someone. When I care for someone, they are in my heart. Love and care are one and the same. But for me, that doesn't entirely make sense. Why have two different words for the same meaning? For me, the two words are similar, but separate. Zaw's definition. For me, the dictionary definition is accurate. Care is defined by actions. It is represented by time, sweat, and energy. Care is the act of preserving, maintaining, or better that which we focus on. Often, that which we do focus on, we also love, but it is not entirely necessary. Time and energy does not mean emotional attachment. It does not mean that we hold the things dear to our hearts. I care very deeply for my inanimate objects. Ooh. Yeah. Nice. My phone, my computer, to name a few. All of my things, I make sure they are cleaned, working well, and aren't mistreated. And I use them every day, and I put a lot of energy into their well-being. However, if I had the chance to upgrade any of them, I would do it in a heartbeat. I will put time and energy into what I care for until its usefulness has ended. I wouldn't fight to keep it in my life if something better came along. This can be a slightly horrifying when we truly look at our lives and see what we actually put effort into, and it's not what we think. I mean, think about it. If care is defined by time and energy, what do we truly put effort into? What truly is our priority? And what do we just pretend to care about? It's rather sobering, to be honest. Now, the point for me sharing my perspective on love and care is to actually see what others think about them being separate. I think you can love someone without caring for them. I think you can care for someone without loving them. And I think that there is a huge difference in behavior when you are doing one, the other, or both. I know it's easy to see people caring without loving. We see it all the time in professional settings, when the connection between two individuals is based upon what they are getting from each other, as opposed to growing with each other. It's a subtle difference, and often what we care for, we indeed do love, but not always. In the same way that an object itself often isn't the source of one's love, but the purpose of the object is. So too can people be put into similar categories. When a nurse cares for their patient, they will provide, ideally, everything their patient needs. But they don't have to love their patients to care for them. Many do, but also many don't. In some cases, it may be better for the caretakers not to be attached to their patients, because one way or another, the patient will leave and another will take their place. I most often see this when a person needs someone to fill a certain role for them. Whether that role is for the person to be an emotional support, or for them to do tasks. If there's a task that needs a person to do it, they will employ someone to do that task for them. I've also seen a lot of effort being put into these friendships, but it's to maintain that the role is being fulfilled, not that the bond between the two people is protected. Those we care for but do not love are replaceable. Love without caring is also easy to spot, though many may disagree. The easiest example to spot are parents that leave their kids, like the way my father left me. I truly believe that my father loved me, my siblings, my mother. I truly believe that I, had a special place in his heart. I can even believe that he thought of us every now and then when musing over his life. I can believe all of that and still know that he didn't care about us in the slightest. I can see how he did not put any effort into our well-being, not in our finances, not in our physical and emotional well-being. His life and how he wanted to live it was more important to him than us. Himself is what he cared for. Or so I assume. I never truly knew him. But I can say he did not care about us enough to stick around. I believe that he held us in his heart, that we were his kids. But he wasn't capable of putting an effort into caring for his children. And so, to me, my father loved me, but didn't care about me. Those we love but do not care for receive little to no effort. It is so interesting how we interpret the world, how we come to see everything a little differently. Words that at first we all seem to think were on the same page, turns out we're on completely different pages, even with people we've known and loved for years. I have a lot of friends who have very different perspectives on what love and care are from me. But in conversations, we've come to understand more of each other, and that, to me, is always beautiful. I'd be curious to see other definitions of what love and care are. I'd like to expand my perception. But with that being said, thank you for listening. See you next time.